This is pretty exciting. I'm Rebecca Sayre, and I am taking the helm of organizing and running these meetings with, of course, the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild Education Committee, taking the role that Nina Olivier held for so many years and did so well. And I just so glad that we have so many people here. We've got people from multiple states, multiple backgrounds, multiple uh, connections to the Guild. So what a great start. So the Northwest Eco Building Guild, for those of y'all who don't know or just want a refresher about why this is such a great entity to be engaged with, we are a 501c3 community of builders, designers, suppliers, homeowners, partners, real estate agents concerned with the ecological building in the Pacific Northwest. And the Guild empowers people through education to transform the built environment for long-term sustainability. And founded in 1993 by a small group of professionals and who are already incorporating green building practices into their processes. So that is who we are. And one of the things that I'm really going to champion this year, as is the board, and really we all should, is encouraging people to become a member, to renew your membership. This is important stuff that we're doing. It is fundamental. How do we live sustainably on this planet is kind of how I think about what the Guild is trying to tackle, project by project, person by person at a time. And we're a nonprofit. Our individual membership and participation is what makes this happen. So if you are not a member, if you need to renew your membership, we are going to be sharing some opportunities, of course, throughout the year. Helen Harrison is here, and she is also kind of looking through our membership list, I believe, not as we speak, but was earlier today at least. So please talk to one of us if you have any questions, but would love to have just a big, huge burst of membership growth this year. And I want to thank our sponsors, King County Green Tools, 475 High Performance Building Supply. And today we're going to have just an incredible spate of speakers. Joy Beckerman with Hemp Ace is going to be speaking first, followed by Kathy Ging. And then they're going to be talking about just the incredible material that hemp is and how it can be applied to the built environment. That is going to be followed by Ashley Stallworth and then Nahali. Tell me your last name again.
Nahele Bailey.
Nahali Bailey is also going to be joining Ashley to talk about um, biofiber industries and just a broadening out that topic of different biomaterials for building. And then we are going to go into natural plasters, and it's going to be awesome. And that is going to be Sherri Gamble of Earthhouse Studio. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So I think it's going to be a really exciting and robust conversation. So with that, I would love to introduce Joy Beckerman. And Joy has been involved with the hemp movement for over 30 years, and her extraordinary knowledge and passion for this versatile and valuable crop is contagious. I've already found that out. And Joy is the principal at Hemp Ace International, a Seattle-based consulting and legal support and expert witness firm serving the global hemp industries, and she has been conducting HempCrete workshops throughout North America for the last decade. So with that, I want to hand this over to you, Joy. We've made you a co-host, and share all that you've got to tell us.
Wonderful. And what fun and what an honor it is to be here with the Northwest Eco Building Guild. I'm a very proud member and have presented on multiple occasions, but not since COVID. So I am really excited because there are so many updates. Oops, here we want page down. Sorry, guys, not end. Let's see here. There we go. Just a quickie. I think we've got sophisticated folks here, but when we're talking about hemp and the aggregate for hempcrete, we're talking about hurd, the inner woody core of that long, strong stalk of hemp, and the genetics for hemp that we're talking about growing for this bioaggregate to be here in this first panel. And as you can see, this hemp sown for fiber really lends itself to processing. It has very little branches and noding and leaves, and very densely planted and ready to go right into a processor with those wonderful long, strong stalks. I've limited time today, or I'd go into some of these comparisons, but I think your eyes can show you what I'm trying to explain here in terms of the aggregate. So what's
Hey
all the
Joy,
buzz about?
are you trying to share your screen still? Because we're not seeing your screen itself.
Uh,
You're not.
Okay.
Let's go in here. That's no good. Let's see. How about now? Can you see?
Yep.
We've got you. Yep.
Beautiful. There was the first panel, folks. So that very first panel here, hemp sown for fiber. That's the aggregate that we're talking about for hempcrete, that inner woody core of that long, strong hemp stalk. So, hempcrete, what is all the buzz about? I would take up our entire time here if I went through each one of these, but in general, I really want you to remember that it is mold, rot, pest, and fire resistant. It lasts hundreds and hundreds of years. It's durable. It's even reusable after several hundreds of years when your hempcrete infill construction wall system has lived out its life. You can either add it as a soil amendment or break it up and even add it little by little into your next hempcrete mix for your next hempcrete project. We can take with lime plaster in particular, and I'm so glad we've got our plaster master, Sherri Gamble, here, sort of dovetailing later on in the session this evening.
Awesome.
Yeah, with lime plaster and with hempcrete, you can trade in all of this crap, guys. The horrible pink fiberglass, the toxic earth-killing drywall, and our vapor barrier Tyvek systems. We do not need those Tyvek systems. We can also kiss away mold and mildew and high energy bills, and even heating and cooling systems. So most of these hempcrete construction homes, they are built without heating or cooling systems. And if they are put in, they are very rarely used. And we'll learn about that quickly. If you put an air conditioner in a hempcrete dwelling with good windows, you're going to get very cold, very fast, and stay cold for a long time. And the same thing with the heat. So we don't necessarily need to use those. And depending on how close you are to either an equator or a pole, and the thickness of your wall, and you would build the thickness of your wall between 6 and even 18 inches, depending on how close you are to those to the equator or the poles. With good windows and that proper thickness of the wall, you will be able to maintain an interior ambient temperature of about 60 degrees Fahrenheit year round without a heating and cooling system. So it's pretty amazing. I heard Nahali discuss awesomely in the beginning before we officially started here the monolithic nature, basically discussing the lime cycle. Now, 30%, I would say, these are my numbers, 30% of the magic or superior scientific performance of hempcrete is the hemp. And we'll discuss why hemp is so perfect for this construction and fill in a future slide. But 70% of it, again, my numbers, is the lime. The lime makes the magic, the science, the superior performance. Now, limestone, the cycle is it starts out as calcium carbonate, right? It's years and years and thousands of years of compressed fossils and insects and other things that create this calcium carbonate. Now, we burn the calcium carbonate at about 900 degrees. For Portland cement, bear in mind it's about 3,000 degrees. So, but we do have to account for our carbon footprint with this having to heat the lime to about 900 degrees. Now, after we do that, we get this calcium oxide quicklime. It's a pretty caustic substance. And then we add water to it. This is the slaking process. After our slaking process, we get this lime putty or dry hydrated lime, which is then turned into a powder. And that's what is sold to us as for this, in this case, we have a type N hydrometic calcinated lime. And then once we add water to it and it's exposed to air again, like Nahali was explaining in the beginning here, it wants to become stone again. It wants to be calcium carbonate. So it starts grabbing carbon molecules from the air and over time becomes monolithic. It fossilizes, in fact. Bear in mind that we are also absorbing and sinking a lot of CO2, an unusual amount of CO2. The cannabis plant in all of its forms processes CO2 differently than all the other plants on the planet. So we are also helping to account for that carbon footprint heating just by growing the plant and sinking it as it is growing. Now, what we're talking about for thermal performance is this odd reconciliation that is very difficult to reconcile or come together in a building material when we talk about thermal conductivity and thermal capacity. So thermal conductivity is, of course, how the ability of thermal energy to move through a material. So you've got your HempCrete wall or whatever it is. How long is it going to take for thermal energy outside to reach the inside, to pass through that material, versus the thermal capacity, which is that material's ability to hold thermal energy. So we're talking about the ability to hold the thermal energy and then the time it takes or the conductivity, the wall system's ability for the outside temperature to change the inside temperature by going through that wall. And in HempCrete, we have the perfect marriage of this thermal inertia or diffusivity. Now, why the hemp? The hemp is perfect for this construction wall infill. It has a lot of silica. Now, lime binds with silica. In contrary, wood cellulose, for example, has very little silica in it. So hemp is fantastic for that. But on top of it, when we look and we're looking at this photograph from the University of Bath in England, when we look at a hemp on a microscopic level, we see how spongy and porous it is. This allows for both vapor and thermal energy to sort of move through that piece of biocellulose hanging out in those little caverns, so to speak, and then moving through those cell walls. So it's really perfect for holding that energy, moving that energy, and the same thing for hygroscopicity. So while lime allows for vapor to actually move through the wall, now not all the pieces of the lime of the HempCrete are going to fossilize or carbonize or reach out and bind with a carbon molecule to become monolithic. Some of them actually also they stay in a free lime state, which is interesting because those free limes actually allow, as they are moving vapor through the wall, allow for fissures, not huge cracks, obviously, but for certain fissures that may occur during settling and other movement to actually heal themselves. So there is a self-healing component as well to HempCrete. Again, not gigantic, it's not magic, not gigantic cracks, but fissures. It will actually heal as that vapor is moving through your wall. There are many who say that even if in Hurricane Katrina, for example, those homes had used HempCrete for their construction infill, that so many of those structures would have actually survived through Hurricane Katrina. And I've seen just incredible sort of experiments happen with soaking a HempCrete ball, soaking it for days, taking it out and having it dry out again. It is pretty amazing stuff. As well, it is fire resistant. So there are multiple videos on YouTube and across the web of just taking a straight up blowtorch to a hempcrete block. This is a hempcrete block made in one of my hempcrete workshops. And you can hold that torch, and all it's going to do over time is literally burn the hole directly where you have held that torch. It is non-combustible and very easy to repair. At that point, you would just take out the burned parts, and I love my sound effects. Throw some more hempcrete in your hole where it needs to be patched. So before hempcrete was adopted into the International Residential Code, which I can't wait to get to, just in 2024, and we all had to be activists whenever there was a hempcrete project. The best place to start, of course, was always with the fire department. And in fact, I did the hempcrete workshops originally with Hemp Technologies, which built the first permitted hempcrete home in the United States in 2010. They built it for the then mayor of Asheville, North Carolina. And so it was maybe a little bit of in there to get that building permit, but certainly the first department that Hemp Technologies went to in Asheville, North Carolina was the fire department. Get their buy-in, and it really, really helps. Okay, so if you're going to cast and tamp on, mix and cast and tamp on site, your building materials would be the hurd or shives. Some in the European Union, and particularly in the UK, you'll hear people say shives or shivs. We tend to call them hurd here in the United States. Water, and then a lime-based binder. Not type S agricultural lime, although there have been some great technology in terms of binders that can be used with that type S lime. Do we have years and years and hundreds of years and historical buildings based with that technology? No, we do not have that data, but we are seeing some really promising results with just type S agricultural lime being able to use with some of these binders for building purposes. If you are going to mix and tamp and cast on site, then you would use generally a paddle mixer. You would avoid using a drum mixer, and for larger projects, you would use a pan mixer. I've only worked with a paddle mixer, and it's fantastic for just small residential projects. Your basic mix for hempcrete is a 4-1-1 mix, 4 parts hurd to 1 part binder to 1 part water. And by binder, we are talking about the lime-based binder. Now, whether there's an additive in that to make it set faster, or an additive in that for your S-lime, that's all included in sort of your 1 part. Interestingly enough, moisture, water, is actually added for the humidity of the day. We did a tiny home project in Colorado, for example, in September, I think in 2014. And in the morning, it was cool and cloudy. Now, but by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun was beating down on that field. So we actually had to increase the water in our mix during the afternoon because it evaporated so quickly. So just things to think about if you're doing a sort of, I call the Amish barn raising, or the mixing, casting, and tamping on place, in place project. Just here to show you, just to give you some basic idea, you're talking about building the framing and then building the form. So these tall pieces of, I don't know if you can see my pointer here, but these more plywood looking pieces of wood that you see around the framing, these are the forms for the hempcrete. They're double. You have to have 2 sides of that form. You would then cast the hempcrete with a shovel into that form and then tamp. Here we show a picture of affixing the form. This is Sergei Kovalenkov of Hempire from the Ukraine. He is amazing international hempcrete hero, and he has also created a great lime binder. And then we see Stephen here from Heaven Grown in Mexico. We were doing a mobile hempcrete home on wheels. So this is affixing the forms. Then we cast in place. And then we tamp. Now, you'll notice here, particularly in this middle frame here, that we're tamping only the exterior of the form, and we leave the inside of that form loose, like oatmeal. We do not tamp that down. We don't want to make our wall so thick and so hard that it won't be able to move the humidity, the vapor, and that it won't be able to regulate thermal energy in its ideal and optimal way. So the tamping only happens around the edge of the form. Also, you can get really creative along the way. I was part of, I think it was our first permitted hempcrete wall in the state of Washington, which we did at the University of Washington in Tacoma in their garden. And we used colored wine bottles, all different colors, all throughout that wall. And it's just beautiful when you go inside of that Giving Garden shed, which is a sustainable hub for educational demonstration, shed, SHED. So each wall was made of something different there, but one was that first permitted hempcrete wall. Just beautiful when you walk inside, and the sunlight is on the outside, and you're just seeing these gorgeous colors in the wall. Of course, you're affecting the performance of the wall, the ability for it to, there, not a lot of insulation in a wine bottle, but it certainly is a beautiful decoration. Now, you can also use hempcrete for your roof and even your flooring. Just bear in mind that for every project is different. Is hempcrete going to be ideal for your roof or your floor for this project? And certainly we want to use local and sustainable materials the best that we can. So for example, in New Zealand, where there are more sheep than there are people, they would use a hemp wool or even just wool blend for, say, floor and ceiling insulation, and use hempcrete for their walls. Then, of course, we've got the plastering. Can't wait to hear Sherri talk about that. Now, Sherri does all kinds of plastering. She uses lime, she uses clay. When we, and probably other materials, when we are talking about hempcrete, we're talking about lime plaster because we want to keep the ability for that living, breathing wall system. And essentially, that's what hempcrete is. If we could go back and rename hempcrete, we would probably call it hemp fill or hempsolation or something like that, because hempcrete does give people the misimpression that it is a substitute for concrete, and then we could use it for, let's say, a driveway or a sidewalk. But it needs to be above ground. It's a daylight wall system. It must breathe. And in order to keep it mold and rot resistance, we wouldn't want it to touch the ground. And we would keep a lime plaster, or as we'll see very briefly in a future slide, magnesium oxide board. Now, you can do any siding you want, of course. You just need to adjust for the need for the wall to actually breathe, whether that's going to be something that looks like a chimney, which is actually a passive air vent, or whether you're keeping an air gap, maybe an inch air gap between that hempcrete inner wall and your cladding. And there are others who will just do the siding itself, but lots being developed now. But in any event, ideally, in an ideal world, your hempcrete wall would have plaster exterior and interior and just be this beautiful living, breathing wall system. And you can, of course, get really creative with plastering too, trying to show folks how you can make designs and things of that nature. Oh, good. It was the very next slide. So magnesium oxide board is also quite ideal for siding with hempcrete, because that allows you, it is also living, breathing, hygroscopic construction material. So you could butt the magnesium geoboard right up against your hempcrete wall. And it's also non-combustible. Just this is actually that small, tiny home from that project in Colorado. They worked on it for a number of years, had plaster workshops and so on and so forth. So now that's what it looks like. And you can just see a small example. I mean, you could do a Victorian, you can do 90-degree angles, you could do a mushroom-shaped, hempcrete home, rounded hobbit type hempcrete home, all the things, all the colors and all the things. So the really exciting update, and there are several here, but thanks to an amazing international group led by the U.S. Hemp Building Association. And by the way, Ashley, I just learned in the last week that you were elected president of the U.S. Hemp Building Association in that last election, brother. So congratulations. Thanks to the hard work of the USHBA and a team of really dedicated international HempCrete builders and about $50,000 that needed to be raised. They were able to get through the international commercial codes, the International Code Council. Sorry, there's ICC and IRC. Get them to adopt through their very intense hearing process, and it went over 2 huge hearings. They were able to get what is called hemp lime or HempCrete into the 2024 IRC appendix, and it's called the Appendix BL Hemp Lime or HempCrete construction. And what it does is it allows the use of hemp lime in buildings up to 2 stories in region of low seismic risk prescriptively without engineering. Now, in higher risk or taller buildings, it would still fall under the code, but it would require an engineered design. The IRC isn't accepted in all states, but it is in most. There can also be, and right now, or at least as of maybe about almost a year ago now, about 9 months ago, most of the states were in mid-cycle for adopting the 2024 IRC. But that was just a humongous game changer. I mean, it's literally like going from zero to floodgates in terms of the validation of this technique that the IRC has adopted it in their appendix. So while I talked a lot about mixing and casting and tamping in place, because that's what my experience is, and that's what's so much fun, right? Especially if you're wanting to build community, if you're on a budget, so on and so forth. But it certainly isn't how the housing industry works. They don't want anything to have to be mixed, cast, tamped, and cured on site, which can take a very long time depending on the humidity and time of year, the climate. So we look a lot at prefabricated panels and blocks. Now, they're quite ahead of us in Europe. Bear in mind, it was only the 2014 Farm Bill that allowed us to research hemp since 1937 in a meaningful way. And then the 2018 Farm Bill, which actually legalized industrial hemp as an agricultural commodity, allowing hemp to take its righteous place in the broad light of day with all of America's other agricultural commodities. But that's not the case in Canada. Canada legalized federally in 1998 with crop insurance. They went really ahead with the grain industry, the hemp grain industry, although coming in up with fiber. But Europe really is ahead of us with fiber, and certainly China, but we won't be discussing China so much. If we were talking about textiles, I'd talk more about China, but we're not. This is building materials. So Europe is quite a bit ahead of us. Now, the Dun Agro Hemp Group and that tall gentleman that you see in the middle of the picture there is Albert Dunn of Dun Agro. And that's me next to him. We did when I was president of the Hemp Industries Association, we did a technical tour of Europe. And it was just fascinating. That was in June of 2018. And just wanted to show you there how developed Dun Agro's prefab panels are for HempCrete. And behind in that center photograph there, we are seeing the prefab house. And we went inside and it's gorgeous, and it's just amazing to see. And as you can see with these prefab panels, they have doors cut out, windows cut out. I mean, it's just incredible. Now, these are 6-inch panels, and which is what they deem adequate for that climate for Holland. Again, you would have thicker panels depending on what you're trying to get out of performance and where you are located. In the United States, we are coming right up to speed here, guys. We've got 2 companies at least that are making the hemp blocks, and that's Hemp Block USA and Hemp Block LLC. The picture there in that top panel are pictures from the hempblockusa.com website, and you see the different thicknesses there that they sell. And on the back of the truck, also, you see different sizes. Now, we also are looking at the prefabricated panels for Homeland HempCrete down below. Now, I recognize, of course, that in this first little square here of the Homeland and HempCrete, that those may look small. Those are actually large. They look like the same size as the blocks pictured above them, but those are large prefab panels. It's just a very small picture. So we see the US coming in. Now, I want you to know that we've got this supply chain issue as with any emerging industry. We've been asking farmers to grow a crop for which there's very little processing and manufacturing infrastructure. And we've asked investors and the government to invest in processing and manufacturing infrastructure for which there is very little crop to feed them. But here we are, one foot in front of the other, working in tandem together and building this versatile, valuable industries together. Americhambre, one of my favorites. I don't mean to be a commercial for anybody, and soon enough we'll have so many HempCrete and hemp supplier and hemp service provider companies that it'll just get, so I don't need to sound as though I'm being a commercial. But I have to say that Cameron McIntosh of Americhambre is just such a total hero, and you'll learn more about him in a future slide here. But another way that we can get HempCrete into the walls is to spray it in. And Americhambre has the licensing for the e-Reezy spray application system. And there is just a graphic from his website right there. And that's what the system looks like. If you start studying HempCrete at all, believe me, Americhambre and Cameron McIntosh is just going to come up over and over and over again. Lots to thank him for. So just showing a picture, oftentimes a lot of folks see this yellow home if they Google HempCrete, and a lot of HempCrete websites or other information purveyors use this photograph. That is, in fact, the then mayor of Asheville's home in Asheville, North Carolina. It's absolutely beautiful. I've toured the home. They giggle about how they insisted on having air conditioning units and multiple fireplaces and how they basically never use them. And they're on the side of a mountain in North Carolina. Just a beautiful place. Let's see. Now, we also have, that was 2010, guys. We have so many residential HempCrete projects that are in construction and have already been built across the United States, just multiple states. I could highlight several, but everything from Virginia Beach to Michigan, California, Washington, Hawaii, I could go on. There are just so many. I'm not being fair to the states and the people who have invested and really chopping the wood and carrying the water to build this industry and be the living examples of this just incredible insulation. But I was very excited to tell you about the largest U.S. HempCrete project, which is ready for occupancy in Newburyport, Massachusetts. And you'll see there, it's called the Hillside Center for Sustainable Living, 12 duplex units in Massachusetts, and just super exciting to see that happening. So if you're interested in looking at a more commercial aspect of HempCrete in the US, and certainly there are others in the world, in the UK, the Triangle Apartment Project, for example. But here in the US, Hillside Center for Sustainable Living, just so excited and cheering them on, and really grateful for their bravery and their innovation and their confidence in this incredible building insulation material. So I'm an advocate by nature, and usually it's money that drives things, but I wanted to just take a couple minutes here to share with you the amount of investment going on with the US government. So The USDA has already invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the hemp crop. And just as a overall, in December, they even conducted a multi-agency webinar titled Business Resources for Building an Industrial Hemp Industry. The USDA is really our ally in these emerging industries. But as you'll see going down here, the U.S. Department of Energy in October granted Hempitecture, Idaho-based Hempitecture, $8.4 million to support its manufacturer of hemp building materials, packaging, and automotive parts. In September of last year, the USDA granted OSU's Global Innovation Center $5.5 million over the next 5 years to research new food, beverage, and bio-based industrial product uses of industrial hemp. And you better believe building materials are a huge part of what the Global Innovation Center is doing at OSU. In July, the EPA granted $6.2 million to the Hemp Building Institute to support the development of HempCrete. The Hemp Building Institute was founded by Jacob Waddell, former president of the U.S. Hemp Building Association. And by the way, the U.S. Hemp Building Association is ushba.org, the acronym for U.S. Hemp Building Association. January of 2024, the U.S. Army granted Pennsylvania-based Americhambre $1.9 million to partner with research institutions to study the fire resistance, thermal insulation value, and carbon footprint of hempcrete in construction. In June of 2022, the Department of Energy granted Texas A&M $3.47 million to support a project for 3D hempcrete printed homes. In August of 21, the Department of Energy granted Tommy Gibbons, who's the chief operating officer of Hempitecture in Idaho, an annual stipend of $90,000 and as much as $200,000 to support research into their hemp wool insulation product. In April of 21, the US EPA granted Washington-based Earth Merchant $100,000 to support the development of hemp bricks for construction. And finally, in March of 2018, just basically, that was one of the first big grants a year after the 2018 Farm Bill was signed, and granted University of California, Riverside $12,000 to support a study on the use of hemp as an industrial relevant renewable fiber for construction. So just showing you here the amount of interest and belief and confidence, the knowledge that these U.S. departments have in the future, the necessary future of hempcrete. And I would like to just take a moment as we talk about the fire resistance. Dion Margraf was one of my dearest brothers for decades. He was the original founder of the U.S. Hemp Building Association. He left us unexpectedly in February of 2021, but he was from Southern California and a hardcore activist. One of these, we need to get it done now, whereas I'm always developing relationships with the agencies and the legislators and the regulators and the decision makers. Dion would just tell him how it was and tell him how he really felt. And so when it comes to California wildfires, which are nothing new, they are simply growing more devastating. That is what really probably a poor choice of words, lit Dion's fire the most. And so I just cannot say enough how important it is for the hempcrete industry to be developed. And I think we are seeing here, just based on these grants alone, that the US government agrees and they need to see it and want to see it moving forward. So resources. For folks who are interested, a dear friend of mine, Tim Callahan, he is from Asheville, North Carolina. And he has written a book. It's available for pre-order now. And you pre-order it through Hemp Build magazine, which it will be in the next slide, I believe. But this is a fantastic book. It includes the code. It's 165 pages with 30 illustrations and 40 design details. Tim is an experienced hempcrete builder. He's a lime master. He's superior quality human being, if they exist. He's a wonderful quality human being and pretty amazing. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of that book. Also, he is selling plans, the Hempstead Living House plans, and that is at his website, rootdownhouseplan.com. And there's also a free download at that website called the 101 Guide to Building Your Dream Home for Hempstead Living. So please feel free to take advantage of that download. And it's those plans are for 9 different homes. They're ADUs and regular homes, ranging from 308 square feet to 3,800 square feet. And again, hopefully we'll have more and more of this as time goes on. I don't mean to be a commercial for everybody. Right now, we're working together to build this thing. And so these are the folks really doing that great work. And the folks here on the call today. It's just amazing what we've got with Biofiber Industries as well. For the first time in its history, the International Hemp Building Association is going to hold its annual conference in the United States of America. So Steve Allen, a personal hero of mine from Ireland, who founded the International Hemp Building Association. They've been held in all over the world, the first 12. This year, for the first time, it will be held in Minnesota's Lower Sioux Indian community. Thanks to, in part, Chandra for that sponsorship. Now, early bird pricing it's going to be a 3-day event, and early bird pricing is available till March 31st. It'll take place from October 3 through 5. Does not include transportation and accommodations, but it includes quite a bit here. So you got 3 days with site tours, demonstration, refreshment breaks, 3 buffet lunches, and they feed you good at HempCrete workshops, I can tell you that, and a gala dinner featuring a charity auction followed by an award ceremony and an after party. So that's quite a bit for $360 and 3 days plus your accommodations and your transportation. Now, other great resources, Hemp Build magazine, an incredible lady, Jean Lotus, adore her. She came in like a bat out of heaven 5, 6, 7 maybe years ago, no, probably about 6 years ago, filled with passion for hempcrete and hemp building materials. And she has founded Hemp Build magazine, and that's at hempbuildmag.com. She also puts together the Hemp Building Directory, an incredibly valuable asset, the only one of its kind. And the 2025 version is pre-sale ordering now for $69. Just wanting you to know what is involved in that $69. Please know that if you needed a fraction of the information in the Hemp Building Directory, you will be hunting and pecking blindly on Google. It's worth the $69. It's worth so much more than that. So contact information and companies in 25 categories in 32 countries, experts in sourcing all in one place, organized by region and specialty. And it's a comprehensive book. It includes architects, engineers, hempcrete installers, hemp suppliers, hemp building products, training, and educational opportunities. 140 pages illustrated with 99 full color photos. So if you are interested in this, I simply cannot suggest it enough. Wow, I think I did it. I hope I did it. Thank you so much for listening, and I sure hope that I stayed on time here, folks. I don't know if we have time for Q&A. I will leave that to Miss Rebecca. Thank you, guys.
We will do, thank you, Joy. We will do Q&A at the end because we got some stuff to cover here. But thank you for that. That was fascinating and thorough, and I feel like I learned a ton personally. But let's move on, and we are going to try to keep things at a clip because although we've got some time, we also don't. So we're just going to keep going. Our next presenter is Kathy Ging, and Kathy just joined in with us today. And she has been a member of the Guild since the mid-90s, the co-founder of the Southwest Oregon chapter, secretary for 7 years. She has remodeled a rental house using eco materials, adding 800 square feet upstairs with SIP panels. And she also led the formation of the Public Buildings Committee that helped green the Eugene Library, and has been a real estate agent for over 30 years, among many other great accomplishments. So, Kathy, I'll just give you about 3 minutes here to kind of sum up if there's anything else that you want to share about hemp that Joy did not get to, or anything else you'd like to add.
Thank you. Joy, you did such a terrific job. I have to scratch out half of my remarks now, so you're going to have to forgive me. But I want to mention the Global Hemp Innovation Center, and that started in 2019 in Corvallis. It has about 19 topics and 65 employees, and it's supposedly having a conference in early October. But when I looked again to try to find it, I couldn't find it. So maybe they figured out that Steve Allen was having a conference in early October too, and maybe they're going to change it. But the one thing that really concerns me, and I've been involved in hemp actually since the early 90s, and I was the first investor in CNS Specialty Builder Supply. Our company in Oregon started with two second growth hemp redwood dealers, and they made the first medium density fiberboard in the country out of hemp. We could not get our pulp over from across the sea, and I think we had something like 20 grams of leaf with 2,700 pounds of fiber, and one of our ships was sent back. Well, the co-founder, David Sieber, passed on, but he does have a product called Hemp Shields, if you don't know about that. And that's a seed oil that's 0% VOC or 3% VOC that I have used on my fences on two properties. So I wanted to go a little bit into this whole thing about seed because I'm kind of like an angel about things. I look around to see what's happening. I'm not paid or owned by anybody. And I've been through the solar energy movement in Southern Oregon. I actually helped kickstart that. And I did 25 renewable energy projects around Oregon, including the Oregon Energy Roundup at the State Fair for 3 years. And I was allowed to use the state motto, she flies with her own wings. Well, that's what we should be doing at state fairs and county fairs moving ahead. We could be having the hemp energy roundups or hemp building roundups, and they could be traveling exhibits or whatever. But at any rate, I want to bring that up because we need to get the word out to people. And one thing I want to mention about this thing about seed, I started this discussion on hemp information on Facebook, and there's a document I found today called A Guide to Seed Intellectual Property Rights. It's an incredible synthesis written in 2023 of the pros and cons of protecting seeds, otherwise known sometimes as seed patenting. And I go into the whole thing with Vandana Shiva, whom I heard in Eugene one time at the university. And she said that at least 300,000, maybe a million Indian farmers committed suicide because they were seed serfs. They were beholden to Monsanto for the fact they had to buy their cotton seed every year. So I think we want to avoid some of these problems in our industry. And since I did help to kickstart the eco-building movement here in Eugene, and in fact, we had about triple the attendance at our meetings the first few years than Portland did, from what I was told. But the one thing I want to say is that we can very easily go off track by not lining up with the lower income segment of the population. So being a realtor, I mean, most people have to have money and all that. Well, I'm switching gears right now, and I'm starting what's called the cooperative regenerative housing. Well, there will be a questionnaire of 10 questions.
We need to kind of stick to the
No, this is all sticking to it, okay? Because this questionnaire is going to be then 50 questions, and I'm going to sort people so that they can use possibly AI to find people who want to do hemp housing. So I own a lot, 10 blocks from the University of Oregon, a 4,500 square foot lot that qualifies for middle housing. And I'm putting out the clarion calls that I am looking for intellectuals like myself and cultural creators to help figure out how to develop this into a hemp hub. So that's why I brought that up, just so you know. But I want to move on for a bit here to
just have to do.
so how much time do I have left?
you kind of just need to wrap. If we can do 30 seconds and then you can do some more during the Q&A.
Okay, good. Well, I want to say that I think at the 13th annual symposium, and I did attend the last four online, by the way. You can't attend online, but I think we should try to work with Steve Allen, and I'm going to be writing to him. Um, and nobody mentioned hempbuilding.com, his website, his two books, the 50 International Case Studies, has 4 pages to 50 different projects around the world. I bought 64 copies of his book so far, by the way, because I'm a real passionate about getting information out. But I want to say that we could put together a consortium that could meet before or after that symposium, since it is meeting in this country. And my final thought is, since I did start the Community Skills Bank in Southern Oregon in the 70s, that started 12 other organizations and food cooperatives and land trusts, I want to say that I want to launch what's called the International Industrial Hemp Skills, Services, and Tools Network Portal. And this would be guided by what I call the wisdom keepers to turn AI into a positive force. And I also want to say that I've now started what I call the new stock market, and that's spelled STALK. Please see me on Facebook. Since Blue River burned down 4 years ago, I have dedicated my life to fireproof housing. And Kathy Ging, it's Kathy at KATHYGING.com. And you can email me to get my phone number. You can call me anytime, 12 noon to 10 o'clock at night, to talk about industrial hemp for building. And thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your energy there and all the work that you've done on so many things. I am now going to introduce Ashley Stallworth, who has also done, this is such an amazing group of folks, CEO and founder of Biofiber Industries, focused on agriculture technology, delivering full cycle innovative and regenerative solutions from diverse crops like hemp and biomass. Ashley also serves on the Hemp Commodity Commission Task Force at Washington State Department of Agriculture. And Ashley has held key roles at Microsoft as a product development and project manager, and is the CEO at Present Naturals Distributions, specializing in cannabis product development and distribution. So with that, take it away, Ashley and Nahali. And if you put yourself on presenter mode, that should get rid of all the...
There we go. I think Nahali's got it.
Perfect. Is that sharing?
That looks good. We can't, your screen is not the full screen. Let's see. See if I can help you with that. You want to put it into presenter mode. I don't think that, I think that's on your end. It's gonna make it so that it fits the full screen as much as we can. But for the sake of time, if we can't figure that out, given that this is my first meeting, let's maybe just proceed.
All right.
It seemed like it was full screen to me. Just, yeah, I think that's it. Sorry.
Okay, great. If it's okay, if it's looking right, then let us go. Thank you. Sorry.
Awesome. No worries, no worries. Thank you for having us. It's a great pleasure to be here, to be in good community and good company. Thank you for the leadership, from Joy, from Kathy. And Kathy, what you really touched on really struck a huge tone with us is building sustainable structures for all, right? We know that a lot of projects, when they start new, usually it goes to a very specific set of groups. And we know that we want to bring inclusion, especially for a very inclusive plant, right? That culturally everybody can really relate to all over the world, no matter what the language is, right? People know this plant. So today we're here to talk about a continuation. If you're not sold already by the two presenters who already came before us, I really, well, much more can we really say? No, but we'll try for sure. So today we're talking about decarbonizing our built environment by building with hemp-lined building materials, right? As you heard, it's an insulating, breathable, and fire-resistant biocomposite With the current state of affairs that's going on, especially domestically in the U.S., California has a serious need. We see in pockets of the U.S. the challenges. So, Biofiber Industries, what do we do, right? We work hard to empower healthy homes, buildings, and products by offering a carbon neutral solution for new construction, remodels, restorations, industrial industries, and consumers. This is something that's highly sought after. People have really pivoted to green materials, especially over the last 3 years. And we're really, really thankful to have found Northwest EcoBuilding Group, who has been a longstanding, committed group within the industry. And we're really happy to be able to be working together. So to share a little bit how we started, right? We started on the farming side, right? We started in the cannabis side, but we knew that this was an industrial crop. For a little bit of context, my dad went to Tuskegee University, so he had access to the George Washington Carver Labs, which used to work with Henry Ford, who tested out this material, in the early 30s, 20s, 30s, and proved that this was a superior crop that could provide a lot of solutions. So, from farming, we realized that we had limited processing solutions. So, me and my partner Naheli, we put together all of our nickels and dimes and partnered with a bunch of groups and figured out, hey, how can we figure out how to create something where we can grow it, process it, right? Create a material supply, teach people about it, and get people building. And that's part of the reason why we're here today, because we have been working really hard to bridge the gap, and I believe that we have arrived. So a lot of people always ask, like, what if profitable local agriculture was connected to healthier buildings? Historically, when you look around the world, even here in the US, it was, right? And there's a lot of considerations and reasons why it went out of production that way, especially after post World War II. But that's for another session, right? So, but right now we have a lot of incentives to grow hemp as a crop, right? So that we can create more material, right? We have incentives from state, incentives from federal, from private, and independent that are literally putting up a lot of opportunities. We were one of those groups that farmed climate smart commodities with Washington State University, and we have some more programs going with CoMotion at the University of Washington, who's been really friendly. Agriculturally, based production systems, we're showing that has the opportunity to establish a lot of good potential for the agricultural farmers, right? Their communities, and we're talking county to county, right? Where they can see, hey, we can bring advanced manufacturing, we can create decarbonization efforts, and we can find ways to really keep things regional, right? To really lower our carbon footprint, right? So that's an opportunity for farmers to make money, to be able to improve their soil, right? As well as be able to deliver local accessible materials, right? And one of the things that we've been working on is bridging the gap between the rural and the urban connection, right? That's something that historically has been really challenging, especially when it comes to zoning and the cost of material and the way that, traditionally spec builders have chosen to kind of choose. And a lot of it comes down to cost, right? But we've found that we have a product that's actually a lower cost that has a higher value proposition, and we can get to market now. So with that, there's also job creation, right? We have a lot of opportunity. When you see a lot of folks, especially students, we've partnered with King County to do the Green Jobs, Green Futures program for 2 years in a row. We have lots of students who line up and say, how can we get to work? How can we do this now? Or how come we're not using this already? Right. And that's really a good indicator when we see the largest base of humanoids, so to speak, in the United States to ever exist, who want to get to work and who want to be on the right side of history. So we're happy about that. And like a lot of the professionals on the line right now, we're saying that there's a lot of healthier building designs that are available, right? That are more accessible, that people can actually lean on, right? We have designs, right? When you tell people that, hey, all you're changing is the interior wall systems, right? It makes life a lot easier as opposed to trying to recreate the wheel, right? It allows us to get this material integrated and start building healthier homes, right? Whether they're residential, commercial, and one of the huge opportunities is in the restoration, right? And this is really all around an economic boost for most people because when you're saying you're building better, you're lowering a lot of costs, right? And when it comes to blight and challenges, that doesn't discriminate in the urban nor the rural areas, right? So the creation of new value chains, right, will really benefit all communities. So, as Joy had touched on, there are many different techniques, right? Primarily for, and people are becoming really innovative around them, right? So today we're going to kind of cast through, since some of it was already talked about, is the cast in place, the precast, the spray applied, and a combination of them both. As Joy had shared, we're living in a green world right now. I think Captain Planet would be proud. Everybody would be proud in a way because right now we have a code appendix that people can pull from, professionals can pull from, counties, state. There's really not a good enough excuse not to use this superior building material to help improve our buildings right now. As Joy shared, the USHBA was a huge proponent, as well as a lot of international players who really all collaborated. So this was a global effort to be able to see that we can have something for everybody, right? And if you know, the ICC is the International Code Committee, and it passed the grass, and really only one state doesn't accept it within the U.S., and that's Wisconsin. But I have a feeling we'll be getting there. So what is hemp lime as a building material? Joy did an outstanding job of explaining it. Living legend, love you, Joy, always. By definition, right, just to reiterate, it's a biocomposite material made from the woody inner fibers of the plant, right, mixed with lime and water. It's super simple, right? No need to overcomplicate, no need to add synthetic materials, no need to go into a chemical lab and, cook something up that, will could potentially, for less words, kill you, right? Sometimes slowly, right? Like a bad science experiment, right? It offers sustainability. It's a carbon negative material. It's environmental friendly, and it's made from renewable resources. The properties, as shared, it's lightweight, it's relatively strong, and provides excellent thermal insulation, moisture regulation, and fire resistance. And the applications, right? They're ideal for insulating walls, floors, and roofs, right? For all sustainable building projects, right? By being able to integrate into the wall systems and eradicating the need for fiberglass, drywall, a couple other layers, right? With an all-in-one unit, you're saving time, energy, as well as you're bringing more health benefit by integrating this. Here's a crop that we grew in 2021. This year, it was the tallest plants in the state. We were extremely proud. We did a lot of variety and genetic traits. I thank you, Kathy, for touching on that. The seeds have always been something, and we had to go deep, right? Find seeds from, people who had been hiding them and storing them for years, right? Because they knew that this was a crop that had grown historically. It's essentially a tri-crop. It could feed people, it could shelter people, right? And it could, provide medication, right? And things like that. This crop is absolutely amazing. That's Nahela's dog, Jackson, right there. He's like basically, he's our living assistant. He's awesome. He's pretty much taller than me. If you ever seen one of those giant schnauzers, he's huge. So, but big up to Jackson.
That's a schnauzer?
Oh yeah, giant stuff. So one of the cool things, right, from this, as Joy shared, there's a challenge when it comes to processing and building out capacity right now, especially when it comes to having enough material, right? We've been one of those companies where we had requests for projects where we simply didn't have enough material, and as a manufacturing group, right, that makes it challenging to ever have to say no or have to put people in queue. But in construction, sometimes we know that lead time is necessary. So one of the cool things that we were able to get passed into state law this past year was the allowance of us being able to take the recreational cannabis waste, the stem, stalks, and sticks, and be able to upcycle that into our aggregate mix, which allows more access. If you've checked out, our state is really, really doing very well when it comes to providing cannabis for retail sale. And we were the second one to activate in the nation. So being able to have a value chain where we can upcycle material, we're working with Next Cycle Washington right now, as well as the Department of Ecology, to have 100% made in Washington products. They've been able to supply us with vouchers as well as backing from the Department of Commerce. And we're really thankful for them to be an ally because they saw that there was an opportunity to take something that, like, not only decarbonizes, but, was having a challenge with a waste stream, right? And they just had piles of this stuff just sitting around. And with bioorganic stuff, it could release a lot of methane, which is almost 20 to 30%, more harmful than carbon off-gassing in itself. So a little look inside of the hemp stock itself. It's pretty cool in a way. It's kind of like the kaleidoscope effect, but a little bit simpler, right? You have the epidermis, right, and you have the hollow inner core, right, and you have the primary bast and some of the secondary areas. But the area that we look for the most is the herd. It's the core, right, and to lower some of the costs for the state, right, we kind of bypassed the process of going directly for the long fibers, and we learned how to winter ret, right, to essentially let the crop go through a natural process where it would knock that portion off, let it go back into the earth, which in turn helps the soil, and then it was much easier for us to it down, which eliminated, two pieces of equipment, which can be relatively expensive. So you've heard the phrase balling on a budget. We've tried to figure out how to do it at just about any cost because we do believe that solutions are available, and even if you're starting small, right, it does account for something, especially when it can go into projects that people are readily activating right now.
Amazing.
So locally mixed and bagged lime binder. This is something that we're really happy to share with the community. We're working really hard to support the local economy, right? By sourcing locally, we've been able to create a local binder mix, right, which allows us to be able to once again reduce some of those costs, allows us to be able to get this material to projects really ready to go, and be able to scale it at such a level and availability that pretty much because Washington has such an aggressive goal. If anybody's read the Department of Commerce report, we have a really aggressive goal of trying to build 1.1 million homes over the next 18 years. Even with the new governor Ferguson, who came in and has stated that he wants to do 200,000 over the next, 2 to 4 years. Having a local supply of this is really great because currently the majority of the blends come from overseas. And although we love our brothers and sisters from overseas, it's not sustainable to keep on shipping and moving material with such weight all the way across, right, into this side of the pond. So we thought it was really important to be able to create a regional binder right here, and we're happy to say that we have it available, right? So it ensures a precise, ready-to-use blend. It reduces on-site mixing and errors. It simplifies sourcing by providing local consistent supplies as shared. And by having this here, it saves time and labor, right? Streamlining the hemp lime construction process, especially one of the things that we like to do is do the prefabricated, and we'll talk about that soon. But being able to formulate this and maintain a consistent quality ratio by having good partners and then learning how to do it, ourselves, because we weren't above getting it right, right? Green chemistry is super important and making sure that people are safe with products that they can use that have consistent outcomes is super important, especially when it comes to construction, right? I'm sure we all know somebody who's did the DIY and thought it was great and had a challenge, right? Nothing to take away from people trying to do that, but especially when we're coming with a product that has been so demonized, right? Since the 30s, it's been really important, and it's taken a lot of effort to do it. So the advantages are for sure the sustainability, the thermal properties, and the health benefits.
Amazing.
So here we talk about a little bit of the benefits, which Joy touched on. It's a non-toxic product. This is something that can be sized to pretty much any thickness, 2 inches, about 2 inches per inch for our value, right? And Washington now has a new energy code, which essentially is saying, hey, we're not going to leave anybody with paper thin walls, right? That's just going to allow your thermal envelope to allow all your heat go away. One of the things that we see is that some of the people who have the least pay the most in energy costs. And this is because the way that their shelters are built. And it's a huge disservice to communities. It's a huge disrespect to people, hardworking people who show up every day and do some of the jobs that some people don't want to do, right? As well as some of the really well-off homes, right? Believe it or not, some of the mega mansions have paper thin walls too, and they didn't realize that was going on. So, just a little cast of characters over here. This really does improve and regulate moisture. It's sustainable, has really good acoustics, right? It has really strong STC acoustic ratings when it comes to improved sound transmission, right? It's lightweight, energy efficient, durable, fire and pest resistant. And I saw a question in there when I was talking about the fire resistant. This has passed the ASTM E84 as well as the ASTM E119, right? And if you want more information on that, we can answer that a little bit to describe what that actually means. But it's also biodegradable, which means if we take down a product, take down a house or a structure or a wall, or people want to do renovations, you can upcycle this material into a new mix, or you can let it biodegrade into the earth. Put it back in, especially on agriculture. We could put this right back into the ag fields, right? And you're improving soil health. That's a huge deal. You wouldn't be able to do that with a lot of the synthetic products out there, right? You look at all the browns fields and all the areas that are going through, states of recovery right now. This actually brings benefits. So environmentally friendly, right? And it absorbs carbon dioxide throughout its whole lifetime. I mean, how many products can actually say that, right? So, allowing versatility in design, this is really good when it comes to being able to connect with designers, especially interior designers. I have a feeling that a lot of interior designers are going to be newfound heroes, not only just because they have great design and flair, but because, they're always thinking about what's going on inside the home, right? Historically, we just haven't put that at the forefront of importance, right? It's all been like, oh, structure, and then we'll figure out the materials. I think that time is shifting right now, and then I'm thankful that we get to be on the right side of history. So, with the rate of speed too, it also reduces the time and labor.
And hey, I hate doing this because this is such a great topic. I just want to be mindful that we are at 7:41 and Sherri is also going to speak. So I don't know. I do need to be mindful of time. I do feel that this is my, as I said, maiden voyage of hosting. I've kind of let folks run long. So I'm just giving us a time check.
For sure, I appreciate that. We'll move through. Most of the rest of this is going to be images too. I'm definitely one of those people that way more visual. So. Historically, expertise has always been in the construction side, right? It's resided with builders, artisans, and contractors, right? But, with continued progress, especially with policy and people being open to new solutions, as well as cost incentives when we're talking about, we have things through like Seattle Light that now have, stipends, right, for end of year so that you can have incentives to reduce your costs when you're integrating green products. This product qualifies for it. So, yeah, we can keep going. So structural framing, this product does not discriminate, right? You can use any type of frame. We're talking timber frame, from single stud, but we're also talking about post and beam. We're talking about concrete. We're talking about steel frames. We're talking about hybrid systems. This product can be used on pretty much any of them. Definitely, it's a good opportunity. Cast in place, as Joy talked on, it's a little bit more cumbersome, takes a lot more time, right? And it's definitely for, an artisan approach. Definitely if somebody really wants to get hands on, right? But it takes a long time, right, to cure, and it's not always consistent, depending on where you are regionally. Right here, we have a legendary house right up in Bellingham. We have the Highland Hemp House. If you have ever looked on National Geographic, Pam Bosch, she started with a simple shed project and then went on and said, "Hey, I want to do a restoration project on my house." We have the before and after look right here, and the house is absolutely awesome. She is a huge advocate and has done a lot of good work to spreading the good out here. And look at that, integrating solar. I mean, this house is really a money shot when it comes to creating validity for the state, and honestly has helped to secure other projects by being able to have something to point to over the years. Precast blocks. This is where one thing we really love, and this is one of our value streams that we worked hard to be able to create. It allows for quicker construction time. It can go in all weather applications. There's reliability and consistency, higher strength, right? And it's suitable for all building types, especially for residential and commercial, right? And we're also talking about restorations and retrofits, right? And there's no on-site mixing, right? So you get a pallet, you can start integrating. Great acoustical properties because it's always already a finished good, and it's eco-friendly.
Sweet.
Yep. All right. And these are just some of the products that our product can replace that showed there. And that's the drywall, the insulated and the acoustic board. And now we're just going to streamline. And you're going to see some of these images. I absolutely recommend buying the book Hemp Buildings by Steve Allen. He gives 50 international case studies. He is a living legend, as well as Joy had shared. I've enjoyed spending time with him. He's a Beatles lover. He's just the bee's knees, right? But you're going to see as we cascade through these shots. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to jump in too. And so something, we're big here on it, Biofiber, is streamlining the process to fit more into the conventional construction framework which the cast in place method or cast in situ, it's great, but it doesn't really fit that well into the conventional framework. And this is where some of the great builders like Alex Stanwyck and or Alex Sparrow and William Stanwyck, who wrote the HempCrete book, they've really kind of learned to speed up the timeline of the process. And that's where, Ashley touched on using a precast block. It allows you to not have to mix on site, and it allows you to get that wall up the same day. And, as soon as those mortar joints are cured, it's ready for the plaster to come in and be finished. So it really fits into the conventional timeline to where once that framing's up, your final inspection's done, you can come through and get that wall system up and get moving in. And this is a great example of how he used some glulam timber frame in order to get this block build done. As you can see, really beautiful. The block fits around it. It's very easy to cut with an alligator saw in order to fit around the frame for specialty joints. This right here is a 16-inch block, which is rated at over an R30. So at this point, it's a great insulator. You've got that thermal mass in that block that this is one of the best things about hemp line building material, is because it has such great thermal mass that the heat or the cold from the external part of the building isn't going to penetrate into the interior part of the building by the time the day or the night is over. So the thermal shifts from the day and the night aren't going to affect the interior of the building. And like Joy touched on, if you have a heat pump or a air conditioner, if you're heating and cooling your building, you're going to save a lot on energy costs because of your the thermal mass associated with this product. And then again, encapsulating the wood frame in a highly fire resistant material, we're thinking ahead where, who knows if insurance companies are going to continue to carry fire fire policies in certain areas. So as builders and owners, we have to think about the materials, like Ashley was saying, on how we build homes before. And this is another great method on speeding up the timeline of being able to get these walls in place on the job site very quickly, especially for spec home builders or people that are building a lot of homes. This is where the precast wall panel comes into place. All the structural framing, electrical, plumbing can be done in a warehouse, very similar to like Quadrant Homes or something like that. And then these are carried out on the site, lifted in, attached directly onto the structure of the building, and then they're good to go that same day. This is a really, really cool example of what they did in the UK. They built a warehouse to house some historic artifacts, old carriages, leather seats, bicycles that were very sensitive to mildew and mold. So they built this facility out of hemp lime because they wanted it to be not only a net zero building, but they wanted to build a building that had hygroscopic ability to protect these materials and artifacts from mildew and mold, especially if the power was to go out. They wanted something that wasn't so reliant on mechanical ventilation. So what they did is they built this structure. They hooked up all the sensors they needed to monitor the interior humidity, temperature, and they found, with, again, that thermal mass, the ability to be vapor permeable and transfer humidity from the interior of the building. If it goes above 55% humidity to the outside, it kept those artifacts in great condition. So, if the Science Museum group in the UK can use it, I believe all places can use it. And this touches a little bit on the magnesium oxide board that was talked about earlier. That's what they used as a substrate to then fill in the material and cast in, cure it in the factory before it was going out to be installed on site. Here's some pictures of the great leather carriages and whatnot. And then
quick reality check with folks. Are we cool if we run like 5 minutes over, 10 minutes over, so that we can make sure that this is just fascinating. We want to make sure Sherri's got some time to share her fabulous presentation. Just how are folks feeling about that? I'm not getting any big protests, so I'm going to just say, let's just be mindful.
Yeah, just keep going. It's good.
Yay.
We're
Yay.
going to art class next, so you guys get ready.
All right, well, cool. So here is the next application of really speeding things up with the spray applied hemp lime mix. And this is what's really cool. This is a piece of equipment that we have here in Seattle for anybody that's interested or needs it for any builds coming up. Please contact us for more. But with spray applied, you basically need a substrate to spray against. So this is where you could either do a precast block going up to the interior frame or a magnesium oxide board, and then you spray apply the mix that encapsulates your entire structural frame in a fire resistant material. So you're really getting the utmost protection, a monolithic envelope around your building, just like the traditional cast in place method, but you get a much more consistent uniform mix because you're not reliant on tamping. So often with the cast in place builds, you have a lot of different people on site tamping, which leads to inconsistencies in the build, different densities, different R values. So then the insulative quality is it changes throughout the wall. And this is where doing a spray applied mix, we found that is really helps attain the utmost thermal regulation in that, as well as just speed of application. And this is a great example of a build that was done in 2022 out in the East Coast. And they used a reed mat to use as a substrate to spray against. And then they spray applied the exterior to encapsulate the wood frame, ending up with that. They also used hemp lime in the roof to get that, again, monolithic envelope going around the entire building for the utmost thermal regulation. And then this is what the plan looked like for that build. And again, going back into the combination of the precast blocks and the spray applied mix, this is something that we really like because it really eliminates on-site job error. And it really just comes down to who's mixing the material going into the mixer for the spray applied. As long as the mix is consistent, you're going to have a consistent build throughout your entire build. And this is an example of using the precast block on the interior of the structural frame as the substrate to spray against for that exterior monolithic layer. On that slide to the right, you can see the block going up to the frame and then the spray applied going on the right side of the frame for the exterior. And then here's some more pictures of that. This is a great detail of how you would line out a window with blocks on the interior using a metal L bracket to go across the interior for so you could block out your windows.
Can I ask a question?
We were going to hold questions till the end, but we're kind of getting a little bit loose. So
It's fine.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to speed through these. This is another block and spray applied build that was done in Italy. A beautiful 4-story apartment. As you can see, you would never be able to tell that hemp lime is in here unless you were told that it is. So as far as getting a modern look or fitting into the modern framework of building, this is a great example of how it can do so in a very beautiful way.
Amazing. So
and then Ashley, would you like to jump back in?
Sure, I'll close this out. Thank you so much for making more time for us. We really appreciate it. Like many of you, we're super passionate about creating healthier homes. right? And being able to find, the best ways to do it. So we're thankful to be able to be in community, be in a safe place, and be able to share what we think and perceive uh, is going to be the future of building, right? And we know there's a lot of natural materials, but this is going to be one of the great ones. And there's a lot of cultural aspects to it, but a lot of value gains from using this. Go to the next one now, Holly, real quick. We have keep going because our great friends over at Earth Home, they're going to be able to do it. Uh,
Oh, I
we
wanted
want.
to look.
Oh, wait, hold on. Go back one. Oh, right there. Yeah, it shows the finishes, right? This is where you're going to see Earth Homes really shine, right? We're going to be able to create really nice buildings. Like when you travel around the world and you go to some of the historical buildings that are just, put you in awe, right? This is what they use, right? This is what they use. Somehow we went away from that, and I think we're coming back in a really big way. So go to the next one. So. Yeah, the call to action, right? Is really this is our finale, right? This is where we really want to be able to move forward with everybody together, right? We want to work more with general contractors, specialty contractors, architects, interior designers. There is jobs and bids and projects that we have going right now that we need to be able to activate, right? But we need your help, right? We need to be able to have more sessions like this. We're leaning on, like with Steve Abercrombie over at South Seattle, being able to bring in more certifications courses. We're working with UW right now to be able to do a certification through there. But we know we need to integrate this into vocational, and we need to educate people who already have an extended amount of knowledge in building right now so that we could build up our capacity and be able to build more healthy shelters and homes for people now. So we hope that people can look to us as a resource in the state. We have products and material available right now, and we have some projects in the pipeline that we would love to be able to work with y'all. So think of us and think of everybody else, especially on this call. I see there's over 40 people on here, and we're spending time on an evening time when we probably have kids and all kinds of things. But I think we all know we're doing the right thing. So thankful to be here. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you everybody for being flexible. But it was just like, oh my God, I can't. There's just so much inspiration and information being shared. It's just wonderful. So next to take us home is Sherri Gamble. She's a Seattle-based artist who channels her love of the physicality of art making, and texture is an underused form. And in the studio, she has found working with plaster and other gritty sculptural materials to make art and build form. So, and as we shared in our planning session, she is going to take this from art to community organizing. So take it away, Sherri.
Oh, wow. What a great ending, Ashley. I just really gravitated towards really inspiring our young people to get into the building trades, to, build their own agency and kind of help. And also, you mentioned earlier about how building is restorative. Building with lime and hemp and natural materials, you can really have this restorative effect, not only on you as an individual, but for the community as a whole. So I'm really honored to be here. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys about plaster. I have a few tools and things like that. A lot of you guys kind of already know what plaster is, but it's kind of used in two different ways. It's a veneer, right? Hand troweled over different surfaces. It also can be, ornamental and used as a casting agent. So I have some cast plaster hands here. So plaster is essentially a mixture of different materials that can be used. So lime, clay, marble, gypsum, all kinds of great things. So today I want to talk about the materiality of plaster, and then I also want to end it with the benefits of using it as a way to bring people together. So thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So just a little bit about me. I started plastering in 2001 while I was still working at Microsoft in tech, and worked on my own walls. Went to Home Depot. I bought a big old bucket of bare Venetian plaster, which is not Venetian plaster at all. It's acrylic plastic, and but I just still fell in love with the art of using my hands to create an impact on a surface. So I was hooked at that point. And then slowly kind of faded my career from Microsoft into interior design and plastering. I started my business in 2007. So I've done a variety of different projects across actually the US, but more regionally, Montana, Idaho, and of course, the great, Oregon and Washington state. So I love the sense that you can kind of get into this flow state by using this mud mixture. That's what really excites me. And what also excites me is just the job site, kind of as its own community. I mean, we're kind of building this house before someone else occupies it. So we kind of have our own hive, before we pass it off to someone else. So that's kind of exciting to kind of think about it in that way. Also what really excites me about plastering is the ability to teach and share it and get other people excited about it. So I do a variety of workshops with not only homeowners, but also architects, interior designers, builders, and also students in my community. So let's kind of get into the details really quickly. Again, we talked about how, natural plasters are blends of different aggregates. Clay and limestone are the ones that are typically used with natural finishes. With clay, you're going to really kind of be thinking about wanting to use it in an interior only application as opposed to lime. And you guys had mentioned earlier about monolithic surfaces in terms of its ability to create that thermal mass. So plaster is typically applied in layers. You can kind of have different thicknesses of it, but usually like with lime plaster systems, especially, you want to kind of start with like a keyed in coat, to really kind of give that plaster a grab. Then you can kind of go on with, the next layer. And then, I mean, the options are endless, right? You can actually even use marble dust in some ways to make it shiny, or kind of keep it earthy with kind of more of a clay finish as well. So, I mean, the ranges of the materials are endless. I will talk about texture really quick. So you can kind of do something pretty textured like that on your wall through a layered process of skip troweling with your trowel. You can kind of, do some sort of pigment washes with it. Plaster and natural pigments go hand in hand together. So it's really important though to build those layers up. So you're never going to really want to kind of go in just with one coat and think you're good. You really need that chemical and mechanical bond to take place. So this are just some general rules of thumb. And I mean, in terms of the architectural aesthetics, it's endless. I mean, especially nowadays, you're mimicking, concrete. I can't tell you how many cement aesthetic jobs I've gotten over the last couple years, but you could really kind of use it to sort of transcend building materials and also outdoor and environmental inspiration. Okay, so some basics things with clay. So we earlier were talking about that principle of a material being hygroscopic. So clay definitely does that. I have a studio here in Bremerton. You're more than welcome to come over here anytime. But I've done my bathroom in sort of part clay, part lime, but you can turn on the shower and a couple minutes later you walk in and you're just hit with this earthy smell. That's the clay kind of doing its thing. And so, it does have thermal conductivity properties to it. And I think it's just really important as an applicator to make sure you have a very, very good bond with your plaster. And then also, you can also use mineral pigments and natural pigments to tint it as well. So clay and interior only definitely has a wonderful earthy smell to it. It's my favorite material. I also love lime and marble too. You can do things with lime that you can't do with clay. And interestingly enough, clay or lime plaster is actually self-healing. So sort of as the building settles over time, it's able to sort of navigate cracks and everything like that. Again, bonding is really, really important with natural plaster finishes. I love to use plaster as a way to build community. I think we had already talked about the importance of inspiring our young generations to enter the building trades, especially with natural building. I think it's really important. What's also important is to, use plaster as an artistic medium. Use plaster as a way to sort of to express yourself in a tactile manner and kind of therapy as well. Actually just got a grant through Kitsap County Department of Public Health for a mental health grant for youth arts. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be, I cannot wait to see 10 kids in my studio plastering. It's going to be amazing. So I also, at the studio, I teach homeowner workshops. I'm actually going to be opening up my own public art space here in a couple months. So you're more than welcome to come out and take a workshop, buy some youth arts.
Where
We'd love that. In Bremerton. So I'm based in Bremerton. Yeah, right downtown. So yeah. And I've made a quick film to end our time together. Hopefully it won't be the last. This will be the first. But this is called Plaster to the People, so enjoy.
Is this supposed to be audio that we're hearing?
Is there audio, Sherri?
When you're doing a Zoom call, you need to go into more and then share your sound
Oh,
or optimize for video sharing.
Can you guys hear it now?
Yeah.
So thank you.
all right. Well, amazing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Joy. Thank you to, and oh my God, Kathy. Thank you to both Ashley and Haley, and thank you, Sherri. Oh my God, you guys, what an incredible, inspirational set of presentations. Thank you all for being flexible with time and my time management on this. But questions, John, you had a question a little bit ago to start.
Well, my question was methods of dealing with high seismic zones for HempCrete, right? So, I had the fortune of trying to almost designing for someone a HempCrete house. And we settled on the lateral loads, because two-story HempCrete house had a lot of lateral loads, right? And we settled on trying to use a pre-manufactured steel moment frame system. But I was concerned about the lime reacting with it's a galvanized system, right? So like, what best to cover that pre-manufactured lateral steel system? Like I was telling the contractor, maybe we could just wrap it with some tape or cover it with spray foam or something. I don't know.
You would paint the frame.
You paint it,
So
just
that you would
paint it,
paint the
that's
frame
it?
yeah, that's all you have to do is just paint the frame so that the lime doesn't react with the metal itself, and then you're good to go. Because it's only while it's wet that it's really going to react. Once it's cured, you're good to go.
Yeah.
It's coated.
Yeah, I mean, that's the, I mean, in the density of it, it's about 300 pounds per cubic foot, right? 300 to 400 pounds. So it really has no lateral resistance. Is that correct? does the new building code allow some lateral resistance? So if you're designing a one-story house, maybe? Um, does anyone know anything about that?
When I do my workshops, I do them with a technical expert for those types of questions. So unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I can tell you that the appendix does require, additional engineered design in regions that are not considered to be low seismic. Um, and all of that engineering can absolutely be accounted for. I mean, there are hempcrete projects up in fairly dangerous areas, of Virginia Beach being one, Hawaii another, and all of that can be accounted for. And I may be over explaining or telling you something that you already know. Just you use the word torque. And certainly the hempcrete is known for torque, which makes it safer, obviously, than sort of say a Portland concrete cement structure. It allows some give, but all of that can be engineered with the proper engineer, proper
Yeah.
architect.
Yeah, I guess my main thing was the metal. Like I was thinking, is painting coating going to be enough? Should we cover it with an inch of spray foam? Like, it
Nope,
sounds like just a
Nahali,
simple.
it was either Nahali or Ashley. Yeah, you just code it. And that goes for basically, all the metal. So any sort of casing for a lighting fixture or an electrical outlet, and all of that wiring, and plumbing. Ideally, it's built into prefab panels, or it can be cored out. I mean, it's not impossible to core out hempcrete, but ideally you would want to get that all into the design in the beginning. And
But that goes
certainly
my
through.
Yeah.
that
Oh,
goes to my next question. Okay,
I was
go
just gonna also add that I'm pretty sure that it's just a zinc oxide paint that you need to paint it with in order to cancel out the reactivity to the metal.
That's it.
So it's not like a powder coated system or anything. Not
No, it's
not
just
something.
a zinc. It's simple as just painting the
Huh.
frames. And in Europe, they have some really good examples of where they've built large beverage distribution companies. They've had steel frame buildings, and I've talked to a couple of those builders personally, and they said all they had to do was paint the frames. And like Joy just added as well, any metal object that is going to be in contact with the wall, outlet cover, outlet boxes, or any of that, you would just need to paint in zinc oxide paint.
Mhm. Then along with that, so normally when you do like the hempcrete, you run your conduit, right, for the wires, or you run your wires freehand. But I was also told that you can say the client changes their mind, which I know never happens. Um, but you can just like route out the hempcrete, right, and then fill it back in, right? Run a wire in there and fill it back.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You can channel it out very easily with a alligator saw. You just make two runs along it, and then you just chip it out to the depth that you put your saw in. And then alligator saw is like a chainsaw with just a little bit. Oh, sorry, camera's over here. A little bit more of a narrower head, so it starts wider and goes narrower, so you can get in there and do some pretty accurate cuts. And then like Joy said, you just pack it right back in with some more hemp lime and let that cure and plaster right back over that.
You're supposed to use the sound effect of fill it back in, plop it back in with more of that oatmeal hempcrete.
Pop it back in with the.
So I mean,
Terrible.
hempcrete is an awesome product. It just sounds like awesome, but some of the drawbacks are the lateral resistance, and then the other issue is there is more time delay with plaster, right? Like builders are always complaining about time and stuff, right? Isn't there plaster takes more time because you have to let the coat cure longer? Is that correct? Or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to really, depending on what type of plaster you're using, you definitely need to wait for it to cure. You also, each different plaster requires you to put it on at a certain thickness. If you put it on too thick at once, typically what will happen is it'll crack. So it is even though it's monolithic in general, it is still layered.
Mhm.
I wanted to also just quickly add to that I've seen projects where, in terms of wiring, where they are inserting PVC pipe into the wall and then they run the conduit or wiring through that PVC pipe. I just wanted to, I didn't mean to digress from plaster. I just wanted to wrap that little coating situation up.
Yeah, and another thing on the overall shear strength, hemp lime doesn't have a huge amount of compressive strength, but it does have a good amount of shear strength. So as it's curing and as it's going through that carbonation for the next 300 years or so, it has a hard set over 2 to 4 weeks, depending on temperature and humidity, but it's still going through that overall chemical reaction for the next 300 years, where it's getting stronger over time. So it is increasing the overall strength of the building. Currently, the IRC coating that is out has it rated for a 2-story use in residential cases, but in Europe they've done much more than that. In Africa, they just built in South Africa, they just built a 16-story apartment building. So there's definitely a lot of ways around that. And then the code is kind of overwritten in the US until more of these examples and more use cases are out there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to get at in my earlier comment. Like, I remember it was rated something really low, and then also reading that it's actually has a much higher load capacity over time. And so, that's another reason why I think it's just a bulletproof product, because that resistance over time, as it gets structural, resistance, fire, breakage, and damage. Yeah.
100%. And
But
then
it's just disappointing you couldn't use it for lateral. I felt disappointed because I was like, my structural engineer telling me, oh, we're over engineering this thing basically, but it had to meet code. And so I wish the code standards here would allow a little bit more flexibility there.
That's also, working with local engineers in the jurisdiction that you're working with, and then just getting them more familiar with the product, providing more use cases so that they can be like, hey, okay, I can sign off on this because it's not completely new to me and I don't know what I'm signing off on. So a lot of that is sometimes getting them enough education to where they feel comfortable enough with the product. And that's what Pam Bosch did with the Highland Hemp Home in Bellingham. She started out with a small shed next to her house where she had all the county engineers around, and then they were very familiar with that. And then when she did the renovation for the main house, it was very easy for the coding process to go through and the permitting process as well.
Interesting. Once there's a precedent, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? This is such a good discussion. Closing.
Well, so I guess in that as well is Biofiber Industries hemp herds designed for spray installations. Well, I know there's a difference in hemp herd quality or something for spray versus tamp herd, right?
Yeah, so it'd be the same herd. It's just applied differently. So it's the same mixing process. So you could literally take that same mix and then do. I mean, there are some slight differences, and as far as you don't have to use quite as much binder with the spray applied mix. You end up with a much lighter density, so you end up with a higher R value with the spray applied mix. So there's a lot of benefits to that, but overall, it's the same herd. As far as the herd, it's anywhere from roughly 3/4 inch pieces down to 3/64 inch pieces. So just no dust larger particles up to smaller chunks, enough to create a good uniform mix within the wall system.
Okay. Anybody else?
So with the either spray on or precast HempCrete Would that be used in like if you were gonna remodel a home and you go down to the studs and then just put the blocks in where you would put the normal insulation, or is it done differently than that?
So you could do that, but ideally, the way that the easiest way to do it is to put it. So the blocks come in different sizes. So if you're doing a spray application and then a block combination with that, we would recommend one of the smaller blocks, which right now the smallest is a 2 3/4 inch size block that would go up to the structural frame, has a R value of R6. So then that just goes straight up to the structural frame. Those get mortared together. That becomes a substrate you could spray against, and then you would spray apply the mix in up to the block, and then encasing the entire structural frame in the mix. Unless you were to do, you can cut out the blocks and then include those within the frame, but that becomes a lot more labor associated with that project.
Okay.
Are the blocks glued together?
It's a high strength mortar, so it's like mortaring bricks together, which that cures in about 12 hours usually.
Not very much. That's an awesome system.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, that sounds great. That way you're not having to spend the time to do the form board workout.
Yeah, and that's where some of the best builders in Europe, they really wanted to speed it up, and then realized that the only way for this to really get used by conventional builders is to get it to fit more into the conventional timeline of building, because that cure timer of it curing through carbonation really kind of puts that cast in place. A struggle where if you're doing a precast block on the interior, then your interior is only subject to those mortar joints drying, which as soon as those are cured within 12 hours, you can come and then do your base coat, and then your scratch coat, and then your finish coat, which your plaster coat's only, it's about the same time as it would take to get drywall up, as far as having your drywallers come in, doing your taping, you're doing the mudding, depends on how many layers, because that, sometimes drywall can take 3 to 5 days. So it really doesn't add, that plastering doesn't add too much time onto the overall time of the build. And that's, if you're doing the precast blocks on the interior side of the frame, then your interior is move-in ready as soon as those blocks are up. And then you still have that, that spray applied. It can cure over the next 2 weeks if it's a build during the summer. Then all of a sudden, by the time your plaster guys are finished with the interior, the exterior is ready to finish, unless you choose to do a rain screen on that build.
But why would you want to do that, a rain screen, when you already have this breathable material? Just cover it with plaster and call it good.
Some people like to, for looks, pretty much facade.
I don't understand that. The plaster is so beautiful.
All right, let's say I'm looking, it's 8:23 and we have time for, let's just say one more question. I feel like there's a lot of discussions that could stem from this presentation, so I put all the presenters' contact information in the chat. But does anybody else have one more question before?
Yeah, could I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I talked to the founder of Just Biofiber in Canada about 3 years ago for half an hour, and he had $20 million of back orders, 20 plants from 14 countries ordered. And I'm kind of wondering, Ashley, if you thought maybe of joining up with those people in Eastern Canada and Western Canada near Calgary. What do you think about that?
We're open to solutions. I think that this is a global effort. Obviously, domestically, we know that we have some extenuating circumstances, but they're definitely one of those groups that had a great product, right? And it was sad that the father got sick, and from, not to put their information out there, but they had some challenges, right, internally. So if we could pick that up, and we have tried to reach out to them as well as other players within that ecosystem, but the challenge of it is sometimes not having enough runway as a company, right? Where you're saying, hey, we can build this up, and then being able to get it. But I think those times are changing. but yes, they absolutely have delivered great value for this industry.
Well,
And
I'm sorry, do you
real
worry about the seed though? I'm really worried about because the guy in Davis, University of California at Davis, they have lots of grants for hemp down there, if you didn't know that. But the 16 land grant universities working with the Global Hemp Innovation Center in Corvallis, and I'm wondering whether we should be holding up on building massive number of houses until we test the hemp for the structural purpose, not structural, but for the walls. Or what is your opinion since you're into agriculture?
I think we have the seeds and the genetics that we need to move forward. I think the challenge is, in no disrespect, is just getting away from the basically decolonizing, right? Not being restricted by being able to manifest our own destiny here in the United States, and that requires us to be able to grow more seed stock, more for grain. Right? Washington is huge, right? We've got a lot of that opportunity here as well as with our Midwest brothers and sisters. So I think it's good. I think that, Oregon OSU studied that in about 1903 already and had their studies already. And, I think we need to fast forward and kind of get it out of the theoretical and move ahead with the
Yeah,
application.
yeah, and real quick, I just wanted to answer Laura's question about can hemp lime replace spray foam insulation? Yes, it is a replacement for spray foam. There's some things that you have to consider if you're going to use it, but overall, the best use case for hemp lime is it's a replacement for drywall, all sorts of insulation and exterior siding. So it becomes an all-in-one unit, reduces the number of contractors you have on site. It can be taught to the GC, and you could literally just have the GC handle almost all of the framing and construction of the house, and then just have your plasterers come in and have it finished. So it is a direct replacement for spray foam. If it's just used on the interior, there's some considerations that have to be taken into account for because it doesn't have a chance to fully regulate the moisture vapor on the interior. So there's some calculations that we can do to know exactly what sort of ventilation you would need in sort of the home, inside of the home, in order for you to use it for just an interior application.
I wanted to just quickly say, Ashley, it's Joy here. I sent you a private message in chat. I'd love it if you have a chance to take a quick peek at that. And I just wanted folks to know that I've put links to 4 HempCrete books in the chat as well. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, everybody. Thank you. We had at the height, we had 46 people here, which is a fantastic way to start off the Guild's education sessions for 2025. All of you came and spoke and put your energy in putting in these presentations, your passion for your work and for the impact that we can have on our communities and our planet was palpable. And we're all still here at 8:30 for a reason, because this was just too good to quit. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for supporting the Guild. Thanks for putting up with me as I'm sort of figuring out how to navigate doing this gig.
Rebecca, I just have to say that the flyer says it was 6:30 to 8:30. So sister, you are A++.
Oh my God. Because Steve was honestly, maybe this is, I don't mean to be telling tales out of school, but Steve was like, we got to wrap by 8. And I was like, oh my God, we're so late. So my apologies then, Ashley and Haley, for interrupting your presentation, because I was like, sorry about that. So anyways, for first time down the runway here, I'm really appreciative that everyone is here, that we are now finishing right on time.
Do you know that it actually says 6 to 9 p.m. on the data that I got sent?
Well, that is actually for, I'm a little confused. I've been told a lot of different times.
Okay.
We're gonna figure it out. But it feels to me like we're at a good wrap point. Any other burning questions?
Well,
Figure out
so
the
Ashley, are you gonna be promoting your product in LA now? I mean, it seems perfect for that area. I mean, 100% perfect for that area. The extreme temperatures, the highs and lows, especially on the coast, the
Yeah.
thermal mass benefits. I mean,
Yeah, short answer, yes. Long answer, definitely it's going to be a collaborative effect. You know, we would love to have folks be able to chime into USHBA, US Hemp Builders Association. We're working on gathering efforts to have a collaborative effort in bringing some sustainable solutions in the short term as well as in long term, right? Because we have the opportunity to be proactive rather than reactive.
Mhm.